Hello, my name is James Couture. This is a video about how to use the source to check your student's grade. I'm a teacher at West Seattle High School, and here's how you do it. So, first thing you do is go to the school website, go to Google, or hopefully you have it bookmarked, and go to the school website, in this case West Seattle High School. And on this page you'll see a bunch of stuff you can use, news about the school, upcoming events. You can find all manner of things out about the school, staff if you're interested in finding out who's teaching your student or how to email them. That's an easy way to find their email addresses. And then up at the top here you'll find other kinds of logins and other sorts of things. If you want to log into Fusion, which is a useful thing for finding out information about what assignments are and things like that, you can log in there. But this is about the source, using the source up here at the top of the nav bar to find your students' grades and attendance. So I'm going to click into that, and that opens up the login page for the source. And so I'm going to click on this particular grade here and log in. Brings up this page, which is the opening page for the grades and attendance. You can see this student, Nathaniel Bryce Evans, is a student, a freshman at a particular school. And up here are the various grades and teachers and things like that that you'll want to use for information. So if you want to email the teacher, you can just click on their name here. It'll bring up an email program, whatever one you have attached to your browser, and you can email a teacher immediately. You have grades here. I'll show you that in a second. Over here is absences and tardies. So if a student is absent, you could click on this, or if a student is tardy, you can click on this. See, it's a link, and that will bring open a detail page that will show you for each given class how they were absent and tardy. In this case, the student was absent on September 11th, 2013. The code is LE, which means if you look around down here, you can find the student was left early and was excused. So this is an OK tardy. So I'm going to go back here. And if you have a lot of absences or a lot of tardies, there'll be a lot of detail there, and you can figure out what happened on a given day. And here is probably the part you're more curious about, which is the grades and attendance. And you can see for most of these teachers, they have a semester running grade, which means that basically the first quarter and the second quarter will somehow add up to the semester grade. These people will presumably have a second quarter grade, which will then cause there to be a semester grade. The semester grade is the only one that finally matters. But if you want to see, I always just click on the semester grade, but if you want to see a particular quarter, you can click on that. For instance, with these guys, you have to click on the first quarter if you want to know anything about them. So we're going to click through some of these classes and see what is going on. So for instance, I'm going to click on this Spanish teachers. I'll start with the algebra class, the B. When you click on this, it brings up the page for what the grades are in a given class. And so here's the final grade for the class, which means the grade at the moment, unless it's finalized grade. And then if you scroll down, you can see all the information that goes with the class. So I'm going to scroll down here a bit. You can tell that this teacher's broken their assignments into various categories. In this case, honors homework, responsible scholarship, and quizzes. And those categories are down here with the assignments. And so if a teacher's done this, you can see how the student does in various categories. So for instance, even though the student has a B in the class entirely, they are doing that by getting good quiz scores, being a responsible scholar apparently, doing a fairly mediocre job on the homework, and then having done none of the honors points. I'm not sure really what that means. So if you scroll down, you can actually see the detail of the detail. In this case, it's the scores that the student has gotten on various assignments that have come in. And so you can tell most of these assignments, the student's done all of them, or they've been single check assignments. And there's a mix of A's and then a few E's in the case of this student. So they've failed to turn in this homework assignment. It has an E. It's a 0 out of 10. And remember that it's the 0 out of 10 or 0 out of 2, because that'll become important later. So these are assignments where the student has gotten a grade and it's a 0. So E. Apparently the student didn't turn in their homework and they are a bad student, at least on homework. So I'm going to click back and take a look at some more grades. So that was the algebra class. Let's take a look at the Spanish class. So I'm not going to click on the name of the teacher because that'll bring up the email address. I'm going to click on the grade. And again, here you can see the total grade, and here it is broken out by what kinds of assignments the student does. Not sure exactly what this means. The one that seems most important to me is summative assessment, so I guess that's the big grades. Assessment's always a big deal, and the student has a B- there, so that must be worth a lot of points. If you scroll down, you can see again there's a lot of information, which assignments, some assignments the student hasn't done, 0 out of 5. One of the things you'll notice here, though, is you often see grades on the source that have dash dash over a number, and this means basically the assignment is in the grade program, but you don't really know whether the assignment's turned in, whether the assignment's in the teacher's hands, or whatever. In this case, the teacher has used a code, and there are codes down here. That's what these little colored boxes and arrows and things mean. In this case, they have a collected code, a late code, a missing code, score exempt from final grade, and assignment is not included in the final grade. So this assignment was turned in, because you can see that in the code, it was collected. So it's not missing, and in fact, this student doesn't seem to have any missing assignments. But so this one, even though it's not graded yet, we know the student turned it in. Doesn't seem to actually matter with their grade, though, because of the way this little star is. So you can look down, see what they did on various things. Some of the assignments they did well on, some of the assignments they did poorly on. Interesting one to me is this big quiz, which is worth a lot of points, doesn't seem to matter in the final grade. So you will sometimes see that, and just depends on how the teacher's doing their thing. I guess since they can retake the exam, probably that's why this one doesn't count. It's a nice way for a teacher to tell you this is what they got the first time, but the one that really counts is the retake. So you can kind of keep track of your student. It's a lot of ways for teachers to communicate. This teacher also does a good thing, which is putting assignments that are not yet in existence on the assignment. So when I'm looking at this, it's actually 1014, and this teacher has put in later assignments. So for instance, 1018, and a whole bunch on 1025. So here, you as a parent can look and see what's coming, or as a student, actually, if the students are checking their own grades. I use this a lot in my own class to basically warn parents and students what's coming up in the future. So with this grade, you can see a lot of information about the Spanish class. Let me go back, actually, to this algebra class, because I remember something about it. So I'm going to click back on the algebra class. And one of the things you will sometimes see is on a score, there will be an underline. So for instance, this was 10 out of 10, but it's underlined and it's a link. You can see me hovering over it. So I'm going to click on that link, and it brings up this little message box which has a comment. So I guess this was a particularly good assignment, excellent attitude and effort. Sometimes there'll be some very clear explanation. This was late, 20% was removed. There's all sorts of things that the teacher can use. Keys there basically for you to figure out why they got what they got. So the score and the keys, or the codes and the score, you can use to find some stuff out about why the student got the grade they got. And I'm not going to look at these two because they're not that exciting, but I'm going to look at this world history grade real quickly. Click on it. And this teacher does another thing that's kind of interesting. Again, this student doesn't do their homework, but they do well on everything else. I've got to talk to this student about that. Here you can see a whole bunch of grades, bunch of E's on things that are a problem. But this teacher has done something interesting, but only really at the beginning of the class, which is that they have listed some information about the assignment. So if the assignment has a link, see, it's a link here, you can click on that, and it will tell you something about the assignment. So this is a description about the assignment. And I use this in my class a little more completely than this. I will put like the page numbers that you're supposed to read, what questions you were supposed to answer. You can put a whole lot here as a teacher, and some teachers will do that. So I'm going to go back to that, show you how I got there again. So you scroll down, look at the assignment. If the assignment's a link, then you can find information about it. I use this on future assignments so that way students will know more what's coming. Again, this teacher's broken their grades out, so you can see what the student is particularly good at, what they're not particularly good at, and look at the specific grades. So this is a way to check their class by class. You can keep an eye on their grades. Not all teachers post new assignments every day. Sometimes it's just depends on how busy the teacher is and how important a particular set of assignments is to get into the grade book. But you should check pretty often. Check your student's grade. If you're a student, check your own grade. And that's the easiest way to keep on top of things. If you need to email a teacher, you can click right there. It'll take you right to them. If you need to check absences and tardies, it's right there as well, and you can check that. Hope that was helpful for you. Name's James Couture, teacher at West Seattle High School, and this is how to use the source. Thank you.